Welcome back, everyone. Today is February 26th, 2021. In this video, we're going to talk about the death of National Wrestling Alliance pro wrestling star Jocephus, whose real name was Joseph Hudson. We're going to look at how his death was connected to the numerology of Billy Corgan, who is the current owner of the National Wrestling Alliance, where Hudson was employed. We're also going to look at how it relates to the death of Bruiser Brody. Now, back in December, I did a video on the death of Brody Lee, a former WWE wrestler who was currently with AEW. His death was kind of connected to Bruiser Brody, but this riddle really came full circle because Jocephus, who died a couple days ago, was the man who portrayed Bruiser Brody, who was a pro wrestler who was murdered backstage in 1988. This was an episode of Dark Side of the Ring, airing back in 2019. So we'll look at how this man's passing is connected to this event as well. But we start with the number 55. It's said that Hudson died on the 55th day of the year, the evening of February 24th. This stands out because his name, Joseph Hudson, in reduction sums to 55. And shortly after the debut of NWA Power, an internet wrestling show run by the National Wrestling Alliance, he started portraying a wrestler named the Question Mark. And see how Question Mark also sums to 55 in reduction. Now again, this was all for NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, which is again owned by Billy Corgan. In reduction, Billy Corgan equals 55. So he died the evening of the 24th, the 55th day of the year. News of his death made headlines the next day. That next day was exactly 55 weeks before Billy Corgan's 55th birthday. Notice how with the S exception, the words wrestling and sacrifice both equal 55. And it does appear that this man's name was coded for a ritual sacrifice. The name Joseph Hudson sums to 154 in the alphabetic order and 170 with the alphabetic order reversed. These are the same numbers found in ritual sacrifice and just the word sacrifice. Notice how the phrases sacrifice and ritual sacrifice also have numerology of 73 in ordinal and reduction. This is similar to the value of solar eclipse in reverse. And Hudson's death fell a span of 73 days after the last total solar eclipse. Also notice how the name Jocephus has this value of 38. This is a number we commonly say is associated with death. In fact, the Murder by Numbers poster has the number 38 and 83 coded right inside of it. The word death, 38, notice how killing, RIP, and murder also with this value. Well, NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, also has this value of 38 like Jocephus. His name also with overlap with both death and murder. So next I want to talk about how this is connected to the death of Bruiser Brody. So just to reiterate, in a television series called Dark Side of the Ring, which started airing back in 2019, the third episode of that series was about the killing of Bruiser Brody. Again, this was a man who was murdered backstage at a wrestling event in the year 1988. So the date of this episode is very significant. Notice how it's April 24th of 2019. April 24th is the date that leaves 251 days in the year. If you measure from Bruiser Brody's birthday to the death of Joseph Hudson, you get 251 days. And what's interesting is that he's being called in a lot of places Jocephus Hudson. And notice how this sums to 251 in the standard alphabetic order. This 251 also in the reverse value of ritual sacrifice. In regards to this date 24/4 or 24/4 in 19, these are the Hebrew values of the word kill. I talk about these numbers very often. In fact, the word 19 has Jewish gematria of 244. But think about this. If you measure from the date of that episode, April 24th of 2019, to the date of his death, you get exactly 22 months. 22, huh? Well, think about the name Bruiser Brody. BB or 22. He dies 22 months later. And next we're going to look at how this is connected to total solar eclipse, which sums to 202 in the alphabetic order. Just last week I did a video on the death of Rush Limbaugh. Now Rush Limbaugh's middle name was Hudson. And in that video, I showed how his passing was connected to the miracle on the Hudson when a plane landed in the Hudson River back in 2009. So it's pretty interesting that just a couple days later, we get the death of a man named Joseph Hudson. Now, two of the numbers I pointed out in my decode on Rush Limbaugh were 83 and 29. Of course, Limbaugh was a conservative radio host, which equals 83. Radio 29. Limbaugh had birth numerology of 83 and 29. These numbers are associated with the total solar eclipse code in Hebrew. And now we get the death of Joseph Hadley Hudson, whose full name sums to 209 and 83. So I pointed out how he died 73 days after the eclipse. That was a big part of this. But this really comes together when you combine the numerology of Bruiser Brody with the eclipse code. So Jocephus sums to 119 in the reverse alphabetic order. If you measure from the death of Bruiser Brody to the death of Jocephus, who portrayed Bruiser Brody, look how many days it is, 11,911. So not only do you get the 119 from Jocephus, but you also have the 911, which is its reflection. 911 is the value of total eclipse in Greek isopsephy. 911 is the 156th prime number. An eclipse always occurs 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases after the last one. And in Hebrew Gematria, eclipse equals 156. Now check out the name Bruiser Brody in the alphabetic order. 156. The phrase eclipse the sun 156. The moon must cross the plane of the sun. And if you measure to the next total solar eclipse, he died a span of 9 months and 11 days before it. Check out ritual human sacrifice in satanic gematria. You get a 911. In ordinal, this is 211. His death was a span of 2 months, 11 days after the last total solar eclipse. So we pointed out how 22 was coded into this, dying 22 months after that episode aired. We'll also notice the 67 in reduction. NWA owner Billy Corgan was born in the year 67, and now Josephus has died on a date with primary numerology of 67. You'll also notice that this date numerology has 13 and 31 in it. And followers of my channel know that this is my favorite number. It's the ultimate eclipse number. I talk about this probably every other video at least. And how crazy is this? Josephus, Hudson equals 1331 in English Extended. You know what I just realized is the 289? Because, remember, this was in connection to Billy Corgan's 55th birthday. And that 55th birthday, look how old Billy Corgan will be. 20,089 days old. We get the death of Josephus Hudson 55 weeks before that birthday, on the 55th day of the year. Now, the last thing I wanted to bring up in this video is that the name Josephus has great occult significance. Jocephus is the name of a famous ancient Greek mathematician. And Jocephus is best known for solving the Josephus problem, this theoretical problem. And back in 2019, I actually did a post on the numerology of the Josephus problem, not the mathematics. But what's so interesting to see is that how even these mathematical problems that were solved throughout history were even by the numbers. And there's no better example than the Josephus problem. And the Josephus problem is coded around the circle. You have these Jewish soldiers sitting in a circle. Every other one dies until only one is left. And of course, it's the 19th soldier which ends up surviving. Remember, the number 19 equals 41. There's 41 soldiers in the circle. This decode is linked below. I urge everyone to check it out because it's so good. So anyway, this is all about the circle, right? And when we write out the Josephus problem, notice we get 227 in the alphabetic order, right? And that's a number connected to the circle. 22 divided by 7 is the smallest equation you can use to get the first 3 digits of pi, or 3.14. Also consider how 3 hours and 14 minutes is 194 minutes. Josephus problem equals 194. So when we're talking about pi, we're talking about 3.14, which is spelled out to sum to 224 in the alphabetic order. And now Josephus dying on 224. So there appears to be a riddle with this Josephus problem here as well. Just want to make sure I didn't leave anything out. I think that'll do it for this decode. Thanks to everybody for popping in. Peace, love, God bless. Talk to you next time. See ya.